Let's go back to our main story we're waking up to. The government setting out its plans, some might say finally, for its preferred route for the high-speed rail project linking London to Derby and the north. HS2. The eastern side will stop at a station in between Derby and Nottingham. The hub, the East Midlands hub they're calling it, it will be at Towton, and then head off to Sheffield and Leeds city centres. There have been some alterations to the initially mooted route this morning. Still waiting to see an actual map, but we've heard a bit more detail as the morning's gone on. It could bring huge economic benefits, shortened journey times, but it will also cut through housing areas and the countryside. We spoke to the HS2 Minister, Andrew Jones, on behalf of the government a little bit earlier on.
Now we've made a decision that Towton is our East Midlands hub, then all the other consequential decisions can flow from it. Things like the local planning authorities sorting out the connections to that hub, the road network, the tram network, etc.
So when you talk about the height, so that the route through effectively the middle of Long Eaton, if you like, remains pretty much the same, but it might be elevated or tunnelled?
Yes, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to keep the communities together and not have rail lines that are breaking up towns, breaking up villages, or indeed in some cases breaking up farms or whatever it might be through the rural area. So there's an enormous amount of work to be done to feed a railway line through our small and densely built-up country.
Well, Joe Rukin is campaign manager for Stop HS2. Joe, good morning.
Morning, Ian.
Have you seen the map?
No, I haven't yet, because I've been in radio studios all morning.
Well, so have I, and we can't find one. The government minister told me it was on the government website, but there's a lot of detail, a lot of words, but no map I can find at the moment.
No, there's just a lot of brief explanation about some minor twinges to the thing.
Which, to be fair, he told me were about having listened to people's voices and for example, looking at not cutting Long Eaton in half by taking a viaduct over the top of the town.
Well, no, they've just realised that that's an absolutely insane idea. Basically, all the changes that you've seen over the last 6 years have been because what they've been proposing is absolutely bonkers. One example would be the Hanger Lane Gyratory in London, one of the busiest road interchanges in the country. They were going to knock down 21 bridges there and close half of it for like 18 months. You can't close it for 18 seconds without traffic chaos, and you couldn't imagine that it was a Department for Transport proposing this, and that's what you've seen with Long Eaton. What they were proposing was absolutely bonkers.
Well, you might say it was quite ambitious to tunnel under East Midlands Airport as well. Again, they've amended it now, so isn't this a step forward? Haven't they addressed some of these concerns?
It just seemed absolutely ridiculous that they were tunnelling under East Midlands Airport and not putting the station there. Back when we were waiting for Phase 2 to be announced, we were absolutely convinced that's where the station would be. But the tunnel there, it's massively expensive, so obviously the government want to get rid of as many tunnels as possible.
So now they're going to go around. As I say, aren't they addressing your concerns? That's exactly what they're doing.
Well, no,
so you should be pleased.
No, they've realised that they've made a complete mess of it and they're changing it. They keep saying this, that, oh, yes, we've listened to the local people. No, you haven't. You've basically designed a route at a desk with a map in London without actually bothering to come out and see where it's going through. And only then when you do that you realise what a mess you're making. Like, just a couple of months ago, they rearranged the route past Sheffield. They're going through a brand new housing estate in Mexborough in Yorkshire because they didn't know it was there, because they were using a 2009 map and they'd never bothered to survey the route. And that's what you find with this thing. And you just heard the minister there saying, oh, now we've decided where the route is, the local authorities can plan for it and you can have road networks and trams, etc. What he's actually saying is, we're going to, the national government is going to pay however many billion, it's 56, 63 if you listen to the National Audit Office, to build the railway, and then the local authorities, will have to figure out how you can make this thing work, because, Long Eaton is meant to be serving Derby. Like, I lived in the region 10 years ago, and the A52 was bad enough then. I can only imagine what it's like now, and how you can imagine putting more road traffic on that to feed into what will essentially be a parkway station is beyond belief. It's just not been thought through.
Transport Secretary calls it a game changer, says it'll slash journey times and give passengers on the existing network thousands of extra seats. I mean, it is crying out for extra capacity. Surely you agree to that?
Well, you're delivering capacity where it's needed the least. You know, the long-distance intercity point-to-point journeys are generally the preserve of the business elite. You'll end up paying a massive amount of money and putting in a massive subsidy for something that will only benefit the richest in society, while the vast majority of passengers continue to suffer crush-hour conditions with no chance of respite because you'll be ploughing all the transport budget into this for the next 20 years.
Do you not accept that perhaps, a massive project like this is always going to have glitches, niggles, it's going to have some negative repercussions, but we have to be bold and invest in our national infrastructure?
Well, you have to invest in the right projects, and this is the problem, that HS2 was just dreamed up for no reason whatsoever, besides fulfilling the wishes of the vested interests in the construction industry who were lobbying for it. There was never an assessment what's best for Britain's transport infrastructure. It was just high-speed rail, we've got to have it, and it's got to go faster than any other high-speed railway line in the world, so it's going to cost more than any other high-speed railway line in the world. And that's been the driving mentality behind it. And that's why you see all these arguments put up for it, that, it'll free up capacity, which falls down because actually HS2 delivers it where it's needed least, requires 8.3 billion worth of cuts to the existing rail network. You hear it'll be a magic wand to cure the north-south divide when every single bit of international evidence says that London will benefit. And you hear, it'll create loads of jobs. What are you talking? 25,000 jobs for construction for 56 billion. That's over £2 million to create one job. That is abysmal value for money. It's a terrible project. And basically, the government are doing it because they've been lobbied very hard to build it.
Very quickly, Joe, your campaign, of course, is called Stop HS2. Doesn't what's happened today actually mean that you're not going to stop it? It's definitely going ahead.
It is actually really depressing to see how completely politicians will ignore the facts. It's really a sad state of affairs that you get people like Chris Grayling, who originally said, high-speed rail will be an alternative to a third runway at Heathrow because it was going to Heathrow, it was going to connect with the Channel Tunnel, who's now saying the case is as strong as ever. Now we've got rid of the links to Heathrow and the Channel Tunnel, it's a shadow of what it used to be. It's really a sad state of affairs.